for quality rather than quantity in this.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Let's quality amongst us.
Most health problems in dairy cows are concentrated in the period around calving in the first month after calving. Would everyone agree with that? 90% of sick cows fit into that category from calving for the first month. So in a 12-month period, 90% of the sick cows occur in that period. And with the first group that came round, we went through what sort of diseases people saw in the cows right from calving through the first month. And we came up the actual difficult calvings, milk fevers, ketosis or slow fever, mastitis, sticking to the cleansings on subsequent infections, metritis after that, displaced stomachs. You could probably add other infectious diseases on. Salmonella, IBR, other diseases tend to manifest themselves most often in the month after calving. So that the question then comes, why do we get most of these diseases round about calving in the month after? Well, fair enough, milk fever and calving difficulties, that pretty much has to be then. But these other diseases, why do we get them in the first month after calving? Why don't they occur at other times? And we came up with various reasons with the last group. We said, well, at calving, the cervix is open, the bed neck is open, obviously for the calf to come out. So if the cervix is open for the calf to come out, it's obviously open for infection to go in. Likewise with mastitis, there's cows bagged up to calve, and particularly if you haven't used a teat sealant, running its milk, as milk can run out, infection can go in as well. And then we came up with two other things. We came up with reduced immunity in the cow, immunosuppression, which all cows round about calving suffer a dip in immunity, so it makes them more prone to picking or succumbing to infections. And certainly mastitis and cleansings, metritis, that's tied in with the dip in immunity. And then we came up with negative energy balance as well, which negative energy balance is when the energy demands of the cow are greater than the energy that's going into the cow through the diet, and a negative energy balance, the cow is having to break down body reserves to fulfill its requirements. And certainly the ketosis, displaced stomachs, they're down to negative energy balance. But in actual fact, all these are very closely interlinked. A cow that gets milk fever will stop eating, so it gets negative energy balance. It's also immunosuppressed. A cow that has mastitis probably doesn't fill itself, so she's more prone to get a displaced stomach. They all tie in with each other. So we know that most health problems that cows get are at calving time or in the first month after calving. And on many farms, up to 30% or even more of cows will get one or other of these problems. And the end result is that if you look through your antibiotic usage for individual cows, the vast majority of the antibiotic you use is on cows in the first month of lactation. And if you look at your list of involuntary culls or cows that die, taking cows that do the splits maybe out of the equation, the vast majority of the fatalities or involuntary culls will also be in that period, calving and through for the first month afterwards. So it's in everybody's interest to try and manage these, or trying to avoid these conditions as much as possible. And what we're looking at today is to try and put one or two ideas in people's minds about the precursors to these problems, that what happens during the dry period that can affect what happens at calving and affects these problems. Now, the first thing we want to stress, and I think it will be being stressed in there, is the body condition score of the cows. And really you want to have the condition score of the cows when they're going back to drying off, when they're dried off, ideally be in the condition that you're going to calve them in. And I would say to target a condition of about 3 at calving. Anything below 2.5 or above 3.5 is at increased risk of having problems. If you get through to calving and you're calving cows that are overfit, you're likely to get increased calving difficulties, increased milk fever, more retained afterbirths. You'll end up ketosis, displaced stomachs. The dry matter intake of a dry cow is about 2% of its body weight. So a 600 kilo cow, dry matter intake through most of the dry period is about 12 kilos. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, because of the growing size of the calf inside, the dry matter intake will reduce, and it could be reduced by 20% or something like that. And then at the time of calving, just round about calving, it takes a total nosedive, and the dry matter intake might only be 6 kilos or something like that. That coincides with a time when the energy demands of the cow double more or less overnight when she calves. So we've got a potential calamity situation where the dry matter intake is plummeting at a time when the energy demands are soaring. What can we do to try and mitigate that? Well, a lot of the dry cow feeding, having fibre in the dry cow diet is aimed at stretching the rumen to try and maintain the appetite of the cow. But also, if cows are overfit, internal fat could reduce the rumen capacity for one thing, but also if the cows are overfit, they'll have fatty infiltration into the liver. You've heard of fatty liver, you'll have a fatty liver situation. That will reduce the appetite of the cow. The liver isn't functioning properly, it causes immunosuppression as well, so you get the immunosuppression. Fat accumulation in the liver suppresses the appetite, so the cow eats less. So it starts breaking down body reserves and breaking down fat off its back. That has to be processed through the liver, so you get more fat accumulation in the liver, which reduces the appetite more. So you've got a problem on your hands simply through the cow being overfit during the dry period.